Secretary on board. All right, look at that. I'll call the meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. And we can do the Pledge of Allegiance.
You got the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of
of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it
for which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
justice
and
justice
justice
for all.
for all. As you were. And I will call the roll of commissioners. Dr. Pitto,
Present.
Chris McDonald,
Present.
Jeff Mangles,
Present.
Mike Matthews. I see you, Mike. Matt Gifford,
Present.
Laura Jones.
Present.
And as I said, that Chris White may be absent. I expect he will be. Is there anybody for public comment?
Yes, we already have one hand up. So Linnell, I'll give you permission to speak. And then if anyone else has a public comment to make, you can use the raise your hand feature at the bottom of the screen.
Terrific. Linnell, you on board? There you are. The floor is yours, my dear.
Thank
Madam.
you. My name is Linnell Jones. My address is 10 Point Road. My comments, well under 2 minutes, relate to your agenda, approval of the January minutes. I asked this commission to review and discuss the January minutes before approving them. The draft currently has no mention of the Strategic Harbor Steering Committee. No vote was needed because the guest speakers, important city leaders, will be running the steering committee. Now there is no record that it was agreed that the Strategic Harbor Steering Committee will include, as stated, many members of the Harbor Commission and at least one member from the Shellfish Commission. Minutes are legal documents. It's my opinion that these omit what should not be omitted. The meeting video is on YouTube. Please review and discuss the draft January minutes before approving them. Thank you.
Thank you, Linnell. Is there any other comments?
No one else has raised their hand, so I think that's it for public comment tonight.
Does someone want to make a motion that we open a discussion on the on Ms. Jones' request?
Yep.
Lori,
Yeah. Okay.
anybody else?
So
Go ahead.
No, I'll
Go ahead.
second.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'd like to have a brief discussion on the minutes before we approve them.
May I start with that,
Yep.
Alan, please?
You can.
So the draft that was posted on the commission's website comes directly from the Telesco Secretarial Service. I was not present at last month's meeting. However, as secretary, I took that draft and I listened to the entire meeting and compared the draft with what was said. And I agree with Linnell that there was, I don't think, any mention of the steering committee. In the revised draft that I've sent twice to the commissioners in advance of approval tonight, it says, and I quote, Ms. Vanashek said the HMC, oh, okay, thanks. Thanks, Amelia, will be the primary stakeholder and work with the consultant. And the goal is to build on the work already done by the HMC and be supportive of the HMC. The steering committee will include members of the Harbor Commission. So I added that in. So I don't know.
Included as the Shellfish Commission.
Yeah. Well, You know, Lori, also Steve Bartoshek had requested attendance at that meeting as well, and that was discussed on there. So perhaps his name should be incorporated in that
Do you want
line.
me to add in and at least one member of the Shellfish Commission?
Yes, it was. Yeah, and that's my.
Yeah, Steve said that it may or may not be him.
Right.
But
Correct.
yes, a member of the
Member of the Shellfish.
Shellfish Commission.
That's correct.
Correct. Thank you, Commission.
Any other comments on with regard to this this item, the approval of the minutes, including the participation in the Strategic Harbor Plan? If there's no further discussion, then I will make a motion that we approve the minutes of the last meeting. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Chris seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. The meeting minutes are approved. Application review committee, application review
Watch
committee,
out.
Dr. Pinto,
I recognize my name no matter how it's said, and I've been called other names before too.
better than blah, blah, blah.
Anyway, is it in order right now, Alan, just as a point of information to elect our officers before the meeting begins, or?
That's after we finish the
All right,
correspondence, then that's item 7
okay, great, no problem.
on the agenda.
All right, the first application is, the agent for the applicant is Mr. Bajek. Mr. Bajek is present, and this is at 130 Water Street, which is the Northwest Marine COP application. And that involves the installation of a new steel bulkhead. Pier bulkhead will be constructed directly 18 inches waterward of the existing seawall, and the construction will involve a total of 332 linear feet of new wall, and upland soil would be excavated behind the new wall to allow for installation of the new tieback system that they plan to have. And Jim, I had a little difficult time going through the application as it was sent to me. I couldn't manipulate that because of the, I don't have the appropriate, I guess, the Adobe file to call some of the information and twist the diagrams around. Everything was either upside down or on the side. So I was just wondering if you had access to that, and if you could perhaps submit or discuss the proposal as you see it from your diagrams.
Sure, John, am I allowed to share my screen?
Well,
Certainly. Amelia can,
Yep,
set,
you can
Amelia?
give the share, Jim, yeah.
Okay. Everybody see that?
not yet.
Not yet, huh? What's going on? What about now?
no.
No. Oh, okay, I think I see my problem.
Was share screen?
The green button. Usually. The bottom.
I'm hitting that, the green toggle when I've got the screen on I've got the plans on my screen. For some reason, they're not showing up on yours.
Now you have 2
If
screens.
I can,
Well, perhaps Chris, you have the file? You have the file there? Could you manipulate that folder?
I don't have,
that too.
I
Trying
can
to
pull
open
up
that
what you
back up.
shared with me, Dr. Pino.
yeah, I don't have it open.
There you go. Amelia has
Yeah.
come to the rescue once again.
Okay, thank you, Amelia.
If you scroll down,
Yeah,
Yeah, Jim,
we'll
if
get
you
to
want
it.
me to know what page number you want me to go to?
Well, we could start with the first one.
We're looking at the pictures.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that just shows location, site location.
gotta bring this way down here, yeah.
Way at the bottom,
And
Yeah,
yeah, just keep scrolling down.
okay.
there you go.
There's photographs of the site. By the way, the wall is starting to fail. I don't know if anybody's been down there lately, but Gary Wetmore from GNC Marine did some patching up recently just to, stop whatever was actually in the actual action of starting to fail one section. So he put some new boards, in that area, just so we can buy some time.
Amelia, can you highlight, or just with your marker, because you have control of that, highlight the area that Mr. Bajek is referring to? The wall,
Sure, is that right along
right?
here?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And that includes the travel lift pit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the wall will physically be connected to, the new wall that is, will be physically connected to the existing walls on both adjoining properties. Why don't we shift to another plan?
Yeah, you see, I couldn't flip these files, Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah, neither can I,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
I wish I could show you my plan because it's,
Well, when you submit these JPEG files, Jim, I've always had a little bit of a problem manipulating those files. Do you Xerox copy them first, or do you send them as a direct JPEG file?
I do.
You know what I mean?
I put them in my scanner, and they get scanned that way.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, okay.
But I've got the electronic files.
There we are.
I should have sent the electronic file to you, John. That way
Yeah,
you would-
that's a lot easier, Jim, because I can then manipulate them and turn them to the
Yeah.
proper.
Next time I will definitely do that.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's just an overhead view. If you could scan down to just keep going. That just shows sections. Okay, that's from the topo from the survey that was done. We show elevations on that, and we also show on that plan the new wall that will be within 18 inches of the old wall. So scan down a little bit more. That's kind of the same with the other one. Just a continuation. That's the travel lift pit. Let's scan down some more. Okay, right there. That is pretty much the meat of what we're doing. We're going to be excavating. I know it's sideways, but we're going to be excavating along that line that starts near the bottom of the wall there and feeds back towards the land.
Right. So you're talking about the shaded area, Jim, right? I'm trying to tell.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
I got-
And we'll be removing that material and temporarily stockpiling it. We're also going to be testing it as we're removing the material to make sure, we're not dealing with contaminated sediments. And we're going to be retaining what's clean and what might be suitable for reuse back into that location. Once we do, we're going to excavate in sections. So we're not going to excavate behind the entire wall at once. So we'll be working with sections so we can, deal with the material better. And then once we do that the initial excavation, well, before we actually do the excavation, we're going to install the sheet piles in front of the old wall. So we'll have a strong barrier that we would excavate behind.
It's going to be steel plate, right?
Yeah, yes, regular, the kind of the tongue and groove,
Steel.
sheet piling.
Right.
And are you replacing a timber bulkhead there that I saw in the photographs? Is that?
Yeah, right now it's a timber bulkhead. The new one's going to be all steel.
Yeah.
But the timber one will remain behind the new one.
So
We're not going to remove it. We're just going to install the new wall in front of the old wall. And then we'll excavate behind the old wall. And we will probably end up removing some of the old wall because it's probably going to start crumbling. Any good sections we might just remain, just leave in place. But once we excavate enough for driving in piles for the deadmen, that will be done. The deadmen will consist of timber piles driven down into the earth, and then a concrete encasement will be installed on top of each pile, which will be the deadmen. And then 2-inch steel rod will be connected from that deadman to the new steel sheet pile bulkhead. And we'll continue with that process as we go down the line. And as we do, say we're into the second section, we can even start filling that first section that we did. We will put crushed stone in there behind the new wall and whatever suitable material that would be, from the initial removal process. So it'd be kind of a mixture of crushed stone and some soil. And we'll continue that until, we get to the end.
And Jeff,
And that's pretty much the process.
and Jeff, you had a question?
Any excess material or material that wouldn't be suitable for, replacement behind the new wall will be taken off site to a facility that would accept that kind of material.
Jeff, you had a question?
Jim, is the existing wall permitted or not?
Yes, it's the existing wall. Yes, it is permitted. We've got several permits for this site.
On your sheet.
On the application, didn't say that, Jim.
On the application, it doesn't talk about maintenance of a previously permitted. It talks about pre-1995 and pre-1987 structures, but it doesn't talk about this having a permit for it.
Yeah, well, let's see. Like I say, there's been several permits issued to the site over time.
Right.
There may not be actually an existing permit for the wall itself, except that the previous permits recognize that the wall is there.
Well, I think if the commission is going to find this consistent with the plan, harbor management plan, because it's repairing a existing structure, it has to be done with a condition that this doesn't set a precedent for approving other structures that are not permitted. It would have to be done with the understanding that this is not causing any impact on the environment or navigation. And then you say that you're going to protect the harbor by putting in the sheet pile first. So that would be your screen against any adverse impacts on the harbor. It be essentially a containment barrier then.
Right.
Right.
Do you have you tested the material yet that you'd be excavating?
No, as I said, we'll be testing it as we go along.
So
That'll be part of the process.
once you excavate that, if it's contaminated material, what do you do with it on the site?
And we're going to be doing it that way because, you can tell a lot by just visually inspecting material as it's removed. If we hit any area that's got like an oily sheen or look to it, of course, that material will be, identified specifically for testing. If there's a pocket of obviously clean sand, that'll probably just go through sieve analysis. So an on-site decision will be made as material is removed about what kind of tests will be done on it. And you can't do that if you can't see the material.
Okay, agreed.
But what do you do with the material though after you excavate it and when you're testing it and before you remove it? Where do you how do you contain it on the site?
We've got an area that we're designating as a temporary stockpile area, and that'll be surrounded by hay bales. So no material would be able to leave the site.
So what we would do this is a DOT standard and not a deep standard, so I don't know what exactly you might be required to do there. But for the DOT, you create a waste stockpile area. All material excavated from an area of concern is placed in the waste stockpile area. There's a berm around it, not just hay bales, but a physical berm, so no water can leach out, and you use poly and sedimentation control to keep, to keep anything from flowing out of the area. Then it's tested, and then it's either reused on site or disposed of as contaminated waste. And it sounds like that's your general approach. We would want something that was, that would not more than just hay bales if it's contaminated, to keep keep water from leaking back into the harbor. And I think that's what Joe's getting at there.
Yeah, if we get into material that certainly looks contaminated, we can certainly encircle it with the soil berm.
Yeah.
But I think you'd want to have the soil berm prepared
before you put your
start
soil
digging
down.
material in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would go first.
Right. And we'll learn more about that when we review ONG's application later, because that has a bunch of material storage bins. You usually use some dead man blocks to create,
Right.
To create an enclosure, a three-sided enclosure to hold the material until it's.
Yeah. Chris, let's just pay attention to this one here. I know what you're saying.
I'm saying we will see what that looks like in a few minutes, but yes.
All right. The other thing, Jim, when after you finish the bulkhead, now will you have docks connected or being placed in front of that, moorings of some sort?
Well, any docks that are in the way or connected to the existing wall in some fashion, they'll have to be temporarily removed and pushed off to the side.
And usually the docks are put back in the same footprint. Because one thing the commission has been aware of over in bulkhead replacement in the past is bulkhead creep. You know what I mean? You got 18 inches out from the existing property, and then let's say another few years, another 18 inches out from the existing property. So this is what's certainly a concern as far as creeping outward as you bulkhead out, that the docks or the moorings that you have there remain in this roughly the same footprint, without going outside any, an additional boundary.
We've already had discussions with DEEP about that.
Okay.
There will be no waterward encroachment of any of the docks.
Right. Oh, that's all right. That was a concern. Okay. Right.
So,
I'm sorry.
one more clarification. You said it was going to be a corrugated steel sheet piling for the final wall, but the drawings show a 5x5 precast reinforced panels. So it looks like it's reinforced concrete as the final bulkhead. On this, you can turn the drawing if you hit view, rotate right, you just lose the other ones. That's what I got up on my screen. And yeah.
Yeah, I see exactly what you mean.
Yeah, you did it. One too many.
Yeah, my last
There you go,
conversation
two more. There you go.
with Gary Wetmore was he was planning on doing sheet metal, but I understand what you're saying here.
Yeah, it's the first note down along the vertical wall there, that it's a precast reinforced panels. That's concrete, which is fine. It's a different construction. You'd need,
It's funny, that was actually my question as well, Chris, because those 2-inch couplings that are basically the reinforcement to keep that tension. I thought I saw somewhere there was 10 feet on center for those. Is that the frequency?
For the piles, for the dead men?
No, for the reinforcements, those basically the tie rods that are coming back to keep the pressure in.
Let's see.
And that would be consistent with a precast panel. It's funny because I didn't think
Yeah, but they would be with they're on 5-foot centers.
Okay. But yeah, I was looking to see, as Chris is mentioning, where the depiction of the, tongue and groove style exterior metal facade was. It didn't seem like it appeared on the drawings.
You are correct on that. I'm not sure.
Right, and these
I'll
are,
have to get clarification on that.
yeah, well, these are
Yeah,
signed and
me-
sealed, so they're what the
Yeah.
engineer wants.
I'll get it from the engineer and with the, who's going to be doing the work.
Well, does that require an adjustment to the application, Jim?
I don't know yet. I'm actually looking at it right now.
Gary's bid just went up.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what you've got a 2-inch coupler, which is looks like it's going to an existing tie rod, where the existing whales in the existing bulkhead were to
Yeah,
extend those rods out to capture the new
It
bulkhead.
looks
But
like, it looks like there's
like
going
a
to be,
piece of-
I think there's
looks
going to be
like
a concrete face to the wall.
yeah, well, what's funny is that
I see sheet pile and I see concrete.
yeah, well, you see the tie rod is bolted to what it says is a filter fabric. So I think there's something
No,
missed with the drawings.
That's been, the drawing has been updated. Deep asked us about that, and we did update the drawing to show that that filter fabric is just on the inside of the sheet pile.
Ah,
so is this going to be dewatered in order to construct the dead men?
No,
It's below, it's in the tidal zone.
We don't have enough.
I mean, it's below mean high water.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, Jim,
I guess it depends how watertight the new wall is before the excavation starts.
yeah, then
Well,
Jim, as far as the commissioner is concerned, you certainly get to poll your response to that. But I think, we don't have the actual diagram, the drawings that you propose. And that, we would like to have well, actually what the new proposal would be before we can pass on this. I was wondering if we should table this until next month
I think that would be a good idea, and I think I'd like to have the engineer that designed it to be present as well.
Well, all right. So why don't we do that? Why don't we table this till next month? And when you have all the plans together and you have all the I's dotted and the T's crossed, we'll look at the diagram as reviewed in the presence of your engineer.
That's fine. I have no problem with it.
Okay. All right. So we'll put this on abeyance until next.
Yeah. I'm not the engineer, so it's hard for me to answer some of these technical questions.
That's all right. I'm glad we do have some engineers on the especially Chris, and certainly Mr. Kibbe, certainly is well aware of reading diagrams, and so
Mhm.
thank you very much for that, guys. And we'll hold this on abeyance, Jim. All right. So when you get your plans together again, resubmit them. If you can submit them again in that PDF format, we'll.
Yes, we can certainly do that. Yep, that'd be no problem.
That's great.
Yeah,
Okay.
we identify where the stockpile area is on the new plans too.
Well, that would be helpful too, because before we make any recommendation, that we would like to have everything intact, in one place.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. Yep,
Thank you. All right, Jim.
okay.
Thank you very much.
All right.
The next application is at 10 Nearwater Road. It's a COP application. This is a modification to an existing residential dock. The agent is Tim oh boy, Barton. I can't say, Alan was having problems, so am I here. I got to get my lips recapped as well, Alan. So, Di Bartolomeo. Anyway, from Sound Engineering Associates, and it's an application from Andrew Ryan, who proposes to construct a fixed timber pier measuring 4 feet by 70 feet, of which 10.5 feet will be waterward of the coastal jurisdictional line, and plus 2.5 feet by 24 feet aluminum gangway leading to an 8-foot by 12.5 floating dock. And the work includes removal of 10 timber piles and installation of 6 new timber piles. And the construction will involve both land-based land-based work, which involves the timber framing, decking, and railing, and water-based equipment dealing with, excuse me, piling installation, the gangway and floating dock during the periods of high tide. And certainly we would rely on our harbor masters to certainly direct the barges and cranes when that comes into fore. In any event,
Tim's here.
Tim's here. Oh, there he is. Yes. Thank you very much, Tim. Thank you. You're muted, Tim.
Thank you, John.
I want to practice saying your name 3 times before we're finished here, but
Just the way it's spelled, Di Bartolomeo. Okay.
But you have to sometimes.
Slow. I'll do it slow. Di Bartolomeo.
Di Bartolomeo. There we go.
Yeah, just
I'm
the way it's
Italian
spelled. Okay. Thank you. So yeah, this is a upgrade to an existing facility. It was originally authorized in, I believe in 1978, that it was first installed. And I believe it may have gone through some modifications over the years. What is there now does not match what was originally installed. So what we're doing is we're actually making it smaller. Would you like me to share my screen?
Yeah. So Tim, that there was an existing pier there, which you mentioned it was 3 feet by 50 feet long, and then that one was replaced pre-1995 by a 5 foot wide, 53 foot long.
Correct.
Okay. So now what you're putting in now is going to replace
that.
Right. Gotcha.
Right. And the fixed pier section of this is going to be smaller than what was originally authorized altogether, because we want to get what's been lacking there is a gangway down to a float. So so I can so it's going to be a much smaller fixed pier, and then they'll be able to float in a gangway and a float. So the only waterward work that's going to be done is the by barge, and which has to be done obviously when the tide is in, is removal of the piles and installation of the new piles. Now, the demolition of the structure itself is all going to be done by land, taken away by land, because it's just difficult to navigate in that area. So to minimize the amount of time necessary to be in there, they'll do as much as they can by land. And then what will be left were the piles out of the ground. They'll come in on a high tide, pull those piles out, and then still, at a high tide, put the new piles in. Mm-hmm. That will be the extent of the waterborne activities. Okay. Well, plus when everything's done, they'll float in the dock and the gangway and install that at another high tide. So really likely 3 high tide events where there'll be a barge in there to do that work. So otherwise everything else will be done by land. And the new float is in pretty much the same location as the waterward extent of what the existing pier is right now. So there's no more encroachment than there has been historically.
And obviously the same precautions that we certainly require with regard to the removal of debris and construction material. If you put anything on land, that certainly there would be protection as far as runoff.
Of course, yeah. I mean, it's a landscape piece of property, so they're going to take precautions to do what they need to do to be a clean operation there.
And do any of the commissioners have any questions or comments or Chris?
Have you verified with a barge operator that they can get a barge under the bridge to get in?
I have, yes. I've spoken with Gary Whitmore about it. He said he can get in there, but it's not easy.
No, it's not.
Anyone else have any comment?
No, I actually appreciate, John, the level of detail on the drawings are pretty good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And again, I'm going to have to apologize to Mr. Bardish. I believe the commission usually sends the Shellfish Commission a review of such applications, and I think I neglected to send that. So we certainly would appreciate maybe any response from the Shellfish Commission regarding to that application. I'll send that to you, Steve.
Thank you, John.
Yeah,
But if the commission has no objection to this, it should be
Yeah,
probably stated with the understanding that the Shellfish Commission is reviewing it and
right.
any issues may be raised by the Shellfish Commission should be properly
Responded to
addressed.
that. That's correct. Well, that's usually one of our standard language. If the Shellfish Commission hasn't had a chance to look at that right now, that we'd move this forward. Like that. All right, does any commissioners have any other questions, comments they would like to bring up? Okay, we can certainly indicate that it is consistent, certainly with the harbor management plan, and that we would certainly recommend that the harbor master be in contact with, or the construction individual barges be in contact with our harbor master prior to placement of any work dock, and that special precautions be made with regard to debris and contamination during the construction period, and that we will have the Shellfish Commission that, as I said, will be reviewing that if there's a comment from the Shellfish Commission, that you would respond to the Shellfish Commission's request.
I have a comment.
One,
Is it, if you're to say it's consistent with the plan, is that because it's viewed as an enhancement of an existing
Oh.
duly permitted water access structure and the commission sees no potential adverse impacts or impacts on navigation? So it's essentially improving
It is, right,
water access from an existing duly permitted structure and therefore consistent with the plan,
consistent, right.
something like that.
one more question. Forgive me if I missed this. Now, are there skids on the float that doesn't rest on the bottom, or I'm trying to figure out from the.
Yes, there are. Well, it's there's a frame. There's a float frame. Yes.
So there's a cribbing that'll rest
Yes.
before it hits the bottom. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, that's good.
And that's part of the
That's part of our
finding is consistent.
findings. That's consistent with the plan, that skids or
Doesn't
avoidance
rest on
of
the bottom.
resting on the bottom. That's correct, yeah. All right, so I'd like to make that move that motion forward. Have any would like to second that?
I'll
I
second.
second.
I'll
that, John.
second it.
You, Matt, Lori? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Any opposed? And any abstentions? Not hear any? Great. Okay. Well, Tim, thank you very much, Tim. And
Thank you all.
we'll get those comments out to you ASAP.
Very good. Thank you. Have a good night.
I'm well to Deep. Deep will get their comments to that with a copy to you.
Correct. Correct. Thank you.
Okay, moving along, we have two applications from, and this is from Matthew Schuler from Race Coastal Engineering. And is Matt, is he here or?
Mr. Rakowski is here.
Oh, Matt Rakowski is here. Okay, from Race. Okay. So we have two applications. The first from 8 Golden Court is for peer review. And this is involved Mr. Joseph Topper proposes to restore and preserve an existing stone-filled pier situated along the property waterfront. The applicant seeks to repair the stone pier by resetting the stones and regrouting. And then once repaired, the concrete deck will be replaced. The work area will be secured with a turbidity curtain during the excavation, and the contractor will work with tides to minimize the impacts on the harbor. And additionally, the applicant will elevate the forthcoming concrete deck to an elevation of 11, elevation is 7.5 feet, and thereby facilitating a seamless integration and adjacent upland structures and enhancing accessibility to the pier. All right, well, certainly interested to see that. Thank you. Yeah, so you want to share a screen and
I'll share my screen and run through this. So do you want me to run through the single project first and then?
Yeah, this
the
is talk
second
about the pier. Yeah, and then we'll move on to the second one in a moment after we finish this one here. I'm treating this as two separate applications
Okay, great.
because they came in as two separate applications.
Correct. Everyone got my screen?
Yes.
So applicant is seeking to just restore this stone-filled pier structure. It's a whole old historic permitted stone-filled pier. The face of the pier, which is on this north side, stones have been slowly shifting and moving. So what we're seeking to do is peel back the current walkway on the top surface, pull back the stones, reset the face stones, grout the inner core, then pour a new structural slab over the top, tying into this patio. So raising it, there's a couple steps that go down to this now, just to make a seamless integration with the upland area. We're seeking to get rid of those couple steps just so you can walk straight out onto the pier. The proposed work is all within the existing footprint. We're not extending any further waterward. Do have a section here. Which I can rotate. So the existing stone-filled pier on the south side, it's backed with an authorized stone riprap. So basically pulling back this slab, resetting stones on this face that have shifted and moved, grouting the center core, and then pouring this new structural slab on top. Work find with the turbidity curtain, anticipate that it's all done by land with a mini excavator, crawling out, demoing the slab, and kind of working their way from the waterward end back onto land as they're pulling things apart, resetting stones. They're slowly working their way out of the site with the final installation of the structural slab.
Muted here. All right. Does any of the commissioners have any additional comments? Matt, Chris?
Yeah, a couple questions. I guess if you wanted to show, we got to see some of this earlier, but if you wanted to show some of the photos just to give people a better idea of the existing condition versus the new.
Yeah, those are very helpful, right?
And that'll also kind of help people understand the tie-in between the secondary application that we're going to talk about next.
Right, it's going to be in the exact same footprint, so there's no change in the footprint of the replacement of the wall and the structure.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or there we go.
Right. Yeah, they are.
Yeah. So
perfect.
Yeah. So the structural slab is cracked, deteriorated. So he's seeking restore that. Again, since he's restoring that, wants to repair. Let's see.
Matthew, what was that debris on the dock before? Is that just stone that they lifted out of the area?
Yeah, stone. This is just all. Actually, that's shells.
No, there was photo before that when you first, right up there.
Stone debris that probably either came over and fell on the patio, and they just piled it in this area to get rid of it when we were there.
I see.
Probably to be reset into the revetment. Yeah, so voids, it's kind of tough to see. Let's see if we have, so yeah, voids in the wall, some shifting of stones. This one actually fell out, more shifting of stones over here. So it's really kind of pulling this layer back, getting stones reset, then restoring that face. Excuse me. So any other questions on that? And again, kind of you see those two, it's like one full step and then a half step. So again, trying just raising it so that it's a smooth transition between the patio area / upland area to this here.
So Matt, we have a question about whether it's consistent, but like it's an improvement of the existing structure and certainly
Matt, is it fair to say that the other side of this is deteriorating? And if it's not repaired as you're proposing, then there would be a deterioration of material into the harbor?
Correct. We would envision that the stone shifting would get worse in sections of the that interior wall would start to fail inwards, likely leading to the loss of these slabs into the water.
And I think with that understanding,
Right.
and it's within the same footprint, then a finding of consistency with the plan would be appropriate here.
right.
Because you're repairing a structure that otherwise could have a result in an adverse impact on the harbor. But with the understanding that it's within the existing footprint and that you have proper measures, best management practices during construction to protect the harbor, then my suggestion would be this could be consistent.
Consistent with the plan. Yeah, because if not, if it was just in the same footprint and wasn't improving the situation in the harbor, then we'd have no problem with the project moving forward. But now here, as I said, since it's going to be an improvement of this existing structure and protecting the harbor from further debris going into it, then we would find it certainly consistent with the harbor management plan. Any of the commissioners have any further comment on this application? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Laurie or Matt? I'm sorry, it was.
Your choice, John.
Oh, no.
Laurie made the motion, Matt, you seconded it, is that correct?
Spread the
Laurie Jones, you made the motion, Matt Gifford,
Correct,
are you,
I did at the
are
same
you
time as
seconding it,
Matt.
Matt?
Okay, all right. So we are going to find it consistent with the harbor management plan. And that, as I said, any work in the construction that we might perhaps require, and I don't think it would require a barge or any waterward construction here, that you certainly we're going to be using proper management practices to remove the debris and everything in the water, and that there's no going to be any adverse impact on the harbor. So
and also with the condition that the Shellfish Commission will review it, and if the Shellfish Commission raises any issues, that those.
Well, that would be with both applications. Yeah, we'll have the Shellfish Committee. We'd like the Shellfish Commission, and Steve, again, I apologize about this. Have the Shellfish Commission review this application as well as the next application that you have that we have on the agenda. So again, with the idea that the Shellfish Commission will review the application and that you're to respond to any concerns that they might have during the construction or the building construction of that wall.
No worries. Thank you, sir.
All right, all those in favor with that motion?
Aye.
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 Any abstentions? Any noes? So moved. Thank you very much. And then Matt, you're on again. So we're going to be reviewing now. The next application is a COP application it's a residential 440 dock. And Joseph Topper, again, he's going to be quite a busy man, proposes to install a 3.5 by 30-foot long gangway down to a 8-foot by 11.5-foot floating dock with a 8 by 3-foot landing float. The floating dock will be secured by 4 anchor piles and float stops to prevent the dock from resting on the bottom substrate during the periods of low tide or low water. The landward terminus of the gangway will be attached to a timber platform that will be secured to an existing stone pier, which we just finished reviewing, right? And the 25 square foot timber platform will be supported by 2 piles. Overall, the square footage of the proposed structure is 219 square feet. Construction will entail both land-based and water-based equipment, and piles will be driven utilizing impact vibratory pile drivers or drill, if required, from a barge-mounted crane. So this is where, again, we would require certainly some input from our harbor master during the time of construction, but we'll let you.
Do you have a drawing?
Yeah, if you can place that drawing up is.
Yep. So let me pull that up. Okay, yeah, so this project's a residential floating dock. This is 8 Golden Court. So same property. We were just talking about the stone-filled pier in the last application. On this one, he's seeking to add just a little access platform to get to the gangway down to a floating dock. Due to the grades and how shallow it is, to keep the float 18 inches off the substrate, we ended up having to install a four pile system so that we could put a frame underneath so that the floating dock during low water would sit on the frame, so that it doesn't impact the substrate. The system was pulled as close to the pier structure as possible, minimizing encroachment out into the water, due to the fact that there was really no additional water depth that could be gained from kind of coming out perpendicular to the system. So kind of keeping it condensed as close to the existing pier as structure, the pier structure, we thought would be the best beneficial use for the applicant. The piles would be or anticipated to be impact driven by a barge and land barge based crane, followed by then laborers, land based equipment for framing out the upper landing as well as the framing for the floating dock. Once the framing and the pier are set and installed, the floating dock would be floated over and set, and then the gangway would be set on top, again via the land-based barge-based crane.
Matt,
Oh, yeah, okay. All right, Jeff, you have it, yeah.
yeah, so this is a 440 dock, so you're
Correct.
not applying for a certificate or a permit application. This in
It's a-
effect is approved as of right, unless there's some issues raised with respect to navigation or the environment, but this is a registration, not an application.
Correct. This is not a COP. It's under a general permit application.
Oh, okay, all right.
And
Okay, that's been changed.
there's enough water here so that a vessel attached to it would not rest on the bottom, or how?
It's about a foot of water depth during low water on the face of that dock. So that's why the floating dock system is up on a frame. So yeah, long-term berthing, etc., wouldn't be viable through all tide cycles here.
Well, that would be certainly our concern, and certainly a concern of the Shellfish Commission.
Yep.
That any appreciable length of time at that dock would not require, being at low tide,
Right.
Does anybody, Chris, Matt, any comments, concerns?
No, between the original and this is pretty clean, and it was, all the information was there. So I think, Matthew, thank you for your
Yeah, and I certainly
complete nature of this.
Thank you.
Is there a section of the floating thing you could put up again?
Yeah, hold on. Let me rotate that for you.
It's upside down.
Yep.
Here we are. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, so the access platform, same elevation as the stone-filled pier. So smooth, again, kind of smooth transition from the upland area onto the pier, onto this pier, and then walking down onto the floating dock. with the timber float stops underneath to support the frame during periods of low water.
It's improving boating access.
Access to the dock and the pier. All right,
Provided no boat is on. the
right,
dock.
well, that's the stipulation too, yeah. So we'll make or Matt or Jeff, well, we can make a proposal that the plan is consistent with the harbor management plan, provided that no boat that is attached to that dock rest on the bottom for any appreciable length of time during low water, and that any work waterward from the dock will be, as if for barge, we'll consult with our harbor master with regard to placement of that dock or boat during the construction period. Is there anything else? Anyone like to second that proposal?
I'll
Matt?
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Doing a good job here, guys. Very nice, Matt. All right.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone.
We'll get that out. I'll get that out very shortly to you.
Thanks, John.
All right, now the next application is at 34 Meadow Street. This is a CAM application, which they're going to be constructing a building for interior rock crushing and outside material storage yard. This is Webb Construction, which is LLC, which is the applicant, proposes to demolish an existing structure occupied by LeBlanc's Auto Parts and construct a 20,000 rather square foot facility to process and recycle rock, concrete, and asphalt, and then transfer the processed materials to outdoor covered storage bins on the south and west side of the property. The applicant will install new drainage system consisting of a catch basin and collection piping leading to an underground retention system. And the stormwater drainage system will be maintained, inspected, and serviced depending on the extent of runoff quantities, pollution loading, and clogging with debris. And I think Ms. Suchi is here, or representing the applicant.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Pinto. Good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Liz Suchi. I'm a partner at Carmody, Torrance, Sandeck, and Hennessy, 1055 Washington Street in Stamford. And we represent the applicant, Webb Construction. Webb Construction is about to enter into a long-term lease with a portion of the property that LeBlanc's Auto Salvage have been occupying for many, many years. And if I may, Andy Soumalides is on the call, along with James Brenia of Webb Construction and Maria Genovese, who is the project manager and from the architectural firm of Andreopolis Design Associates. Andy, could I ask you to screen share an aerial if you happen to have one? It's, I think, important because it clearly depicts where this structure is going to be in relation to not only Village Creek, but other structures around it. So the property in question is highlighted in red in the center, and you'll see there are all the vehicles there from LeBlanc's. There are two structures on the, I guess that's the northern side of the property, which would be demolished. The vehicles and the salvage operation would cease to exist if the approvals by all city agencies are secured. As you'll notice, this lot, portion of the lot is surrounded by, to its west, is an existing Webb Construction indoor contractors facility. To the right of that, or to the, I guess, to the south, is the Lions Cord warehouse, and there's also a contractor's yard where the cursor is right now. To the east or north, however you want to put it, is that's the LaJoy facility. And then on the opposite side, where Andy's pointing to, that's both the city carting or the transfer station garage exists right off Meadow Street, right where it says 291-92A in that vicinity. So this portion of the LeBlanc property is tucked behind existing structures, existing industrial uses, and it would be a structure to, as was mentioned, processed aggregate inside the structure with outdoor storage bins with covers on them. Structure would be about 20,000 square feet. That's really about all that I have to add to present to you at this point. Perhaps Andy could walk you through the site plan and show you what the new drainage is, because right now there really is very little that exists on the site. On the southern portion, on the bottom of the screen in green, that's kind of the exterior limits of Village Creek. I believe those shellfish beds are closed to the public, but as you'll notice, there are structures and developed land all around this portion of the property that we'd like to improve with a new structure. So, Andy, I'll leave it to you.
And listen, just a quick question, actually, the actual processing of the material will be done indoors, is that correct?
That is correct. And
I
the
think it's relatively south, because we have a residential area around there. Is that going to be a major concern or what?
I don't believe so, because it's tucked right behind an existing indoor contracting facility that's just below that red box right there. That's an existing contractor, interior contracting facility that's owned and operated by Webb Construction. This would mirror that. So the crushing processing would be inside the building with some bins on the outside for the aggregate that's created after the processing.
Crushing takes place in the existing building?
Correct. Yeah. What is
Yes.
that? Oh, yes, she said, yeah.
Crushing.
Yes.
Okay.
So Andy, I'll leave it to you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Andy Sumalides. I'm a principal with Landtech. Just a little zoom in section of this piece of property. As Liz mentioned, 2 existing structures to the north, another masonry building to the south, with all the car storage kind of sitting central on this piece of property. Again, this is the existing rock crushing facility here to the west. The entire property is within AE 11 flood zone. And there is currently no drainage on the property. The water basically sheet flows off property to adjacent properties to the east. Under proposed conditions, we're looking to add a 20,000 square foot structure, which would house another rock crushing facility indoors. To the west and south are the storage bins. Again, mafia blocks holding up and containing that material. The property on the west here was raised above the base flood elevation about 7 years ago when we did this project. So the idea here is to continue those retaining walls around the perimeter of this project and get the structure above the base flood elevation of 11. So the finished floor of that new structure will be elevation 12, 1 foot above the base flood elevation. You can see here a fairly large drainage system sits central on here with some new catch basins that connect into it. Another smaller drainage system. Again, these are underground detention Cultex wrapped in crushed stone and filter fabric with a catch basin here at the entrance. So basically all the runoff here and all the roof drains also connect into this larger one. So all new impervious surfaces will be captured and piped underground to these detention system and filtration systems. So we're reducing the storm event up to the 100-year storm, as well as providing more than double the water quality volume that's required on this site. That's really driven by needing to reduce the 100-year storm. So ample capacity within our new drainage system here to really reduce flows. A landscape buffer will be proposed around the perimeter. And that pretty much it. You know, we're using low impact development, best management practices here with infiltrating the stormwater to the greatest extent possible, and retaining all of our storm on site.
And
More than happy to answer any questions.
yeah, so just a quick question, Andy. As far as we've had reviewed similar projects with regard to stone crushing and debris that's been stockpiled, and the questions always come up as far as any contaminated metals or heavy metals that might perhaps be involved in the runoff. Will that would be captured in your system here as well? And do you do any kind of periodic testing to see what type of material does come off of the asphalt, comes off of the crushed stone, et cetera, that might perhaps impact the quality of the harbor?
So what we did put together also was an O&M plan, operations management of the stormwater structure. So you have deep sump catch basins,
right?
That'll help contain some of that sediment and potential contaminants. And it also is being infiltrated back into the ground here. Essentially, but no, there's no testing of the actual material.
Okay.
Of the actual rock crushing, you know, the rock material.
Then now the potential of any flooding in that area that would occur, that's been above the elevation of the 100-year flood?
Correct. So we're high and dry here with our new proposal. We'll be above the base flood. So there's no concern, I would say, of floodwaters, taking material off of this site now, as we'll be higher and drier than what's currently there.
Oh, good. Thank you. All right. Do I have another question? Yeah.
Just a couple of questions. Is it normal for zoning approval of a project such as this, that there would be a condition for ongoing maintenance of the retention structures?
Definitely.
Is that a normal-
Definitely.
Then
Yes.
From an engineer's perspective, can you attest that this project will result in a substantial improvement in stormwater and water quality conditions on the property?
Oh, 100%. Currently what you have is cars stacked here, so you're getting oils and the such coming off of these cars and debris, and nothing treating it currently, right? So all of that stormwater is running off. So this is going to be a huge improvement to that.
And since this is the same sort of operation is currently ongoing in the adjoining building, there's no expectation that this would cause undue noise impacts in the nearby neighborhood.
No, not at all. We're looking at, reinforced walls here, similar to what we did here. There is an operation ongoing. It's going to be the same operator. So we have a proven tested method right next door that we'll be applying here. And I'm sure we would have heard from neighbors if there was concern with what's going on next door. So yes, we are putting in measures to attenuate the sound.
And then I think with that understanding that the improvements in stormwater and dealing with flood hazard, that a reasonable finding would be consistent with the harbor management plan, with the understandings that we've talked about tonight.
Sure.
Great. To the best of my knowledge as well, there haven't been any noise complaints registered or issues related to the existing operation in the adjoining building. And as I said, this structure is tucked behind other buildings, and that in and of itself acts as attenuation of noise.
So that we can move forward with a proposal that the application is consistent with the harbor management plan because of the improvement of existing conditions of water effluent flow, runoff, et cetera, and noise abatement.
Great.
Okay.
Has there been any testing of the soil, like especially in the areas you're going to be removing? You're going to have to remove a fair amount of soil to put in the Caltech system.
So we're going to be building above the existing conditions because we are filling. The current grade around the site is elevation 10 to down to elevation 8. So we're not taking out material. We're going to keep all the material on site, and we're basically capping it with asphalt in our building.
Good.
So we're not going to be hauling any
Well,
material.
including where you're going to install the Caltech system?
Correct. Because there's a considerable amount of fill. We don't anticipate any material coming off site.
Right.
All right, thank you.
So we can move forward with that recommendation.
Yes.
Anyone like to second that?
I'll second it.
All right, thank you, Jeff. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any opposition? Any abstentions? And we move forward. Okay,
Thank you very much.
very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Suchi. And is it Tom? Yeah, thank you very much, Tom. And is anyone else from? All right, we have the last application on our agenda is 7-55 Smith Street. It's a CAM application, and this is the applicant O&G proposes to improve an existing contractor yard by constructing 4 material storage bins, a truck scale, and a scale office trailer, and install a water quality chamber to collect and treat stormwater runoff prior to discharging to the Nauk Harbor or Nauk River. The current drainage system allows stormwater to drain entirely into the Nauk River via a system of catch basins and piping located on Smith Street. All improvements are proposed within the previously developed area of the property. So, and again, this is again, Ms. Suchi.
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Again, for the record, Liz Suchi of Carmody, Torrance, Sandak, and Hennessy, 1055 Washington Boulevard in Stamford. With me this evening is Matt Oneglia and Richard Warren of ONG, and Tom Ryder and Andy Sumilides of Landtech. Thank you for your time this evening. ONG, in addition to the items that Dr. Pinto had mentioned, we also are proposing the installation, the ability for us to have barges come to the site to bring and remove materials from the site. Just by way of background, ONG has been in the site for many, many years. It has been a active contractor's yard asphalt plant and similar type use for probably 50 or 60 years with all of the predecessors. The property is bordered by Smith Street to the east, the Norwalk Harbor to the west, and other either industrially, commercially, or recreationally or residentially developed parcels on the north and the south. The parcel is about 3.3 acres in size, and it's clearly within the boundary of the CAM zone. So there are various structures that exist today, which have been used for the processing, storage, and transport of aggregate materials. And there's also an asphalt plant that exists on the site. The property contains a large seawall for barge docking along the Norwalk River, which is clearly consistent with the water-dependent use. And also over time, material stockpiles and processing equipment and other structures have been on the site. ONG has operated with proper permits or as an established legally non-conforming use. A contractor's yard, the asphalt plant serves Norwalk and other communities in Fairfield County, supplies asphalt and other construction materials to homeowners, businesses, cities, and towns. There's also Save-A-Tree on the northern side of the property, northern end, and that's been there for more than 20 years, all with proper permits, which recently underwent a renovation of 6,000 square feet of office space and 10,000 square feet of garage space for its light warehouse and material storage and truck parking. So we propose to modify the uses on the site, including the use as a manufacturing material storage facility that depends upon waterborne transportation, to use barges to and from the site at a dock facility on the eastern bank of the river. Materials would be brought in and depart from the site. We anticipate maybe 10 to 12 barges a month. And then materials that come to the site would then would leave the site through truck transport. That's generally what I'd like to say tonight. I don't really have that much else to say because Dr. Pinto already described some of the improvements to existing disturbed areas. But if you would indulge us, Tom Ryder of Landtech can walk you through the site plan, walk you through the coastal area, the resources that exist nearby, the coastal policies, and should you have any questions, we're happy to answer you. An application for site plan and coastal area management is pending before the Norwalk Planning and Zoning Commission, and that will wind its way through that process and through other review processes by Public Works, Water Pollution Control Authority, Fire Department, Transportation, Mobility and Parking, and the Water Department. So at this point, Tom?
Ms. Suchi, I just want to ask you a quick question on the actual overall proposal. Now, this is a proposal, this is ONG's proposal, and I thought this is not also going to be used for both waterward and landward removal of debris or placement of debris at this location. So the docking on the outside, it will be used then for barge transport then, huh?
Right, it will be used for barge transport, bringing to and departing from materials that ONG either manufactures or transports to facilities up and down.
I thought that the application was primarily for truck traffic in and out for debris storage. Okay.
Good evening. Tom Ryder, a senior ecologist with Landtech here in Westport at 518 Riverside Avenue. The proposal here, I believe you can see my screen. The proposal here is to install 4 storage bins, 1, 2, 3, 4 here, as well as a truck scale here and an office associated with the truck scale. Also, we have, as mentioned, we have stormwater improvements. Right now, the flow goes this way. Right now, it's basically directed right into the river untreated. We have a hydrodynamic separator system in here, which separates out the particulates, improving the water quality. Also, we have a reduction of impervious surface through and some screening combined in here through plantings. That I think removes it about 2,000 square feet for the site. That is really, I mean, this is pretty straightforward application. That is really what's going on here. This is an existing yard. It's been maintained as an existing yard. There is just a proposal here just to add some additional features for that to improve the use, the logistics of their capabilities. At this point, I could turn it back over to any comments for Liz or I. I do have an aerial here if anybody's interested in it as well.
No,
Tom?
one question, Tom. Yeah, go on, Jeff.
Tom, has O&G completed the remediation work in the river? Is that correct? There was a remediation project dredging to remove contaminated sediments from the river, but that's been completed, we're assuming.
I am not knowledgeable about that.
Richard could talk about that. And then is there anything needed to, the docks haven't been used for a while. Are you going to need to make improvements or repairs to the dock structures?
It is possible. Answering your first question, the remediation of dredge material that came out of the river has been completed. DEP signed off on that. That's a finished project. The application before you is we're looking to get your referral to get approval through zoning to be able to bring material back in by barge. If there is we noted that there is damage to the fendering system, so repairs to that, if that is required to be able to bring the barge traffic back through, we would need to submit another application through DEP and refer it to you to make those improvements.
Is this work at all related to the Walk Bridge project, Richard? For storage of materials, didn't we talk about that at some point? That
it is not. You mean project materials for the construction project itself?
Yeah.
No, we're honestly looking to get approval to activate the yard the way it used to be operated with aggregates coming in. If that is beneficial to the Walk Bridge project, we certainly would take advantage of that, but that's not exclusively what the application is for.
And this doesn't involve any reactivation of the asphalt plant at all then?
This application does not. I mean, we would be it's just to bring material to the site by water.
Does anyone else have any comment?
They're restoring waterborne transport.
And that was something that one of the many reports commissioned by the city to evaluate various places in the city suggested be reviewed. That waterborne transit is important. It gets trucks off the turnpike. It's something that we should be taking advantage of in an ecologically friendly and an appropriate way. But it's certainly something that use of the harbor and use of Norwalk River with this type of use is beneficial, and certainly consistent with the Coastal Area Management Act is that it's waterborne transit.
Yeah, well, from a personal standpoint, and that's from my own opinion, basically as an individual, I certainly recommend and go along with that, as using the water as a source of transport rather than keeping X number of trucks on the road. We try to do that certainly with regard to the neighbor across the street, with regard to Divine Brothers and the number of actually with the oil trucks coming in at one time, or barges that came in, sand barges and stuff that certainly eliminate the amount of truck traffic on the road. So certainly very.
It seems appropriate now that we're going to be hopefully confronted with a working railroad bridge in the near future, so there are a reliably opening bridge. So this makes some sense.
Well, that's right. So, and certainly willing to restore certainly the use of that upper harbor with regard to traffic going underneath that bridge and bringing sort of a little bit more life up to that area rather than just people walking along the waterfront. So this certainly I would find, from my standpoint anyway, we'd like to make a recommendation that the application is certainly consistent based on the improvements with regard to the conditions of water effluent in the harbor with the harbor management plan. And
so I wanted to ask about the navigation channel in relation to where you'd like to station barges. And with are the barges intruding on the navigation channel? Because the other set of barges across the river, I mean, I was looking at this one too. This is, Divine hasn't really tucked that barge up very close there. If you have another barge on the other side, you're pretty much blocking access to the marina at the head of navigation. So-
If I may respond to that, Richard Warren with ONG Industries. At the time that the federal channel was last dredged, DEP, Army Corps actually recognized that, and there was a revision to the channel line that works around the barges snugged up against our berth that allowed, we've drawn those on our plan to accommodate being outside of the channel line. It will be close between if there are barges at both sides. Historically, we've always negotiated with Divine, and because we use similar tug companies, so we operate and address, obviously not bunching up the end of the harbor, but there is still navigable water between us to get to the marina after, even if both sides are active.
Okay.
But yeah, go on. Oh, we got, any comments?
Yeah, Richard is correct. When the harbor was dredged the last time, the navigation project was realigned. Actually, Divine's location of the barges is not consistent with what was supposed to take place. But at the time, we were able to provide space and room for O&G to dock a barge at its facility. And we have the channel drawings, and that was an act of Congress, if you remember, Richard, that took place as a result of the Harbor Management Commission's recommendation and the information that we provided. But O&G was okay. Divine was a problem, and if you look at those pictures, they're not complying with what the understanding was for dealing with the barges up there. But that's a different matter now.
Yeah, but I like certainly the idea of coordinating with the barge operators to sort of dovetail or certainly alternate construction travel up and down the harbor. That's certainly very helpful from the standpoint of the commission. All right, again, to make a recommendation that we certainly find the application consistent because of the added improvements with regard to water runoff, water drainage, et cetera, into the harbor, previous to what it was. Again, I'd like to move forward with that recommendation if anyone likes to.
And provided that the use of the facility by barges does not result in an encroachment into the federal channel, which is what.
Yeah,
that's a great point, Jeff, because
what
what
it's supposed to do.
Chris had mentioned, that was the only concern I had from looking at those drawings, is that this can be awfully tight if you've got barges on both sides.
All right, so the recommendation being that it's consistent with the plan, and again, so that the tied up barges do not encroach on the federal navigation project. At that point. Okay.
We can share all those drawings that we did.
Okay. All right, anyone would like to second that motion?
Second that.
All right, Chris, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, we batted 1,000 tonight. That's great, guys.
Thank you all thank you very much for your time tonight. Very much appreciated.
Thanks so much.
All right, guys. So we'll continue commission business.
Yeah, thank you, John. And do we have anything to do with our standing action items, or are we
yeah,
all set with that?
Alan, well, if you don't mind, maybe another 10 minutes on this. I just wanted to resurrect a standing, I should say, interest of ours that dates back to when we relined the East Basin, and that involves Vantage Point and the condominium dock. If I could, let me see if I can get this up here. Yeah. And let's see. Amelia, could I share?
Yes, you should be able to share your screen.
Okay, let's see. Oh, I share screen. Okay, here we go. All right. So the concern, if you let me see if I can increase this here. All right, this concern. Now, back in the early 90s, the Harbor Commission, based on the Army Corps of Engineers noting that there were several encroachments in the East Basin, had certainly by an act of Congress and certainly working with the Army Corps to change the boundary lines of the navigation channel, and we're also at the set point at the end of where the navigation channel is. So we truncated that to to fit the needs of many of the people that were encroaching in the harbor. And so we contracted Redness and Mead, and they came up with a design, which we then went along with, and the Army Corps certainly agreed with regard to changing the channel, truncating the channel, sort of a little bit north of the, south of the dock near the vantage point, and where many of the marina owners were either in compliance or out of compliance. But if they had the chance to relocate, they can then reapply for a new permit. I know I'm not making very, as far as,
Wish, John.
I'm sorry.
What is before us now?
Well, there's nothing before us now, but I think there's going to be some further interest in putting boats along this dock here, this line here. Now, if you notice, here's the Federal Navigation Channel, and what the I guess several people at Vantage Point want to do is to keep their boats moored at the end of this dock here. Now, the commission and the DEP does not allow that, because any boat that's tied in this area right here is going to be extending the navigation channel. We only have a 10-foot, there's a 10-foot setback from the navigation channel. That's too, obviously, they don't meet that requirement over in this region right here. They do a little bit over here, but they can't be permanently docked there. And they want to have this area reserved for permanent docking, which would be inconsistent with the plan as it stands in East Basin. So I want to certainly alert the commissioners about that, because I'm sure there's going to be interest in trying to encourage the commission to change their opinion. But it's really the DEP that had given them a permit that says that they can't have any dock, or any mooring permanently docked on the edge of that facility.
Johnny, are you talking about during the boating season, so to speak, April through November, or are you talking year round?
Year round.
This is a year-round issue.
Yeah, because they have like kayaks and things like that tied up there now.
Well, probably. Well, over in this region here, even in this region here, Matt, there's some room. We certainly there'd be 10 foot from the navigation channel, but down in this region right here, so it becomes iffy if how far up and down that dock they're going to moor their vessels. And so
John, they have in the permit for that dock. They're supposed to maintain signage on the south end of that, where it's very narrow.
We're down in here.
It's only temporary tie up for loading and unloading at the southern end, and it's really defined in their permit how many feet from the end they can use for tying up vessels. Right. So it might be appropriate for the commission to send a letter to the Condominium Association, just to say your signs are missing. They're supposed to be there that say you can't tie up here.
Well, also we get the permit from Sue Jacobson that clearly states that, so what I don't know what their modus operandi is and their plan is here,
Can I say something?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Jeff.
Just quickly, and I'm sorry to belabor this point, but the matters that we're talking about now, going back to the 1980s, are the reason the Harbor Management Commission was established. And it led to actually the Harbor Management Act that allowed municipalities to establish harbor management commissions. Because in the 1980s, when the Corps, might have been 1980, when the Corps dredged this area, they found that most of the property owners along the shore had built docks that either encroached into the federal channel or were right up to it, and the boats encroached into the channel. So for the first time, the Corps of Engineers took legal action against the people who were encroaching. Told them that they had to remove the structures or they would be in violation and they would be subject to fines. Then the property owners asked the city to please help. After the Harbor Management Act was passed, the city established the Harbor Management Commission, and we went through years, literally years of public meetings to figure out how to address this issue. And I won't go into all the details, but the end result was a realignment of the navigation project to enable the property owners to, and some of the property owners, when they were notified by the Corps of the problem at first, they voluntarily moved the docks back right away, moved the docks back. And I believe East Norwalk
Boat Club was the one.
Was one who yeah. Others did not. So the reallocation of the project, and John said Redness and Mead proposed it, but we proposed the realignment. And that allowed the property owners to, after the fact, legalize their structures because they had the chance then. So now that requirement in the permit for the area of that dock at Vantage Point that is not supposed to have boats docked there full time. That's a result of the solution to this problem. And there's other elements of this I won't go into, but this again goes back to the foundation and the reason for the harbor management plan to address encroachments in the East Norwalk Basin.
So that's when we had the setback from the federal channel as 10 feet in this area right here, as opposed to 25 feet for the south, the south.
Both setback.
Both setback 10 feet, yes. Yeah.
So, isn't it appropriate, since that's all in their permit, right? That they can't be anchoring or tying boats to their dock on the southern part of their dock. They're supposed to be, their permit requires signage there that says you can't tie up vessels here.
And they
that signage isn't there anymore.
Right.
So isn't it appropriate that we address that? I think it's within our authority to just say, no, the permit to this, to your dock there doesn't allow you to put boats there, and you're supposed to have signage there that says you can't. I was over there recently. There's a small boat tied up at the southern end of that, a small sailboat, but the signage isn't there. So I would think that someone should tell them that they're out of spec with their existing permit and get on the record having raised that issue. And then I don't know if that comes from the commission, does it come from the harbor master? But we could do that very easily. Is just send them a letter saying, hey, you're just reviewing our properties on the water and compliance with the existing regulations, and you guys are your signs aren't here that are supposed to be here.
Yeah, I agree with that, Alan. Lori, I see what you took your hand for 1 minute, but with that said, Alan, what I have a fear about is that what's going to happen, and it seems to be the tip of the iceberg right now, that they're going to, if this is going to be a harbor management, if the Harbor Management Commission has reviewed this, they're going to turn around and say, based on the current recommendations of a state, the state judge, that we have no right to.
It doesn't apply here, John.
I know it doesn't
The
apply.
setback.
It's a setback, but they're going to challenge a harbor commission's authority with regard to the placement of anything in there, and it goes back to the DEP to finally make that ultimate decision.
I don't think we have to worry about that here.
I hope
because
not.
It's in the plan.
It's in the plan. That's okay. That's right. Okay. No, I'm sorry, Lori.
I think I'm sorry, Lori. Go.
Yeah, go ahead. Lori, you're muted.
No, I wasn't going to talk yet, but I was just wondering, didn't we address this about a year ago? The manager or owner or something asked us to change our mind, and
right, it keeps coming back.
We did.
It keeps coming back, and
Okay.
they're not going to stop. As a matter of fact,
There's a dock or a condo owner down in Florida now who wants to either sublet or sell his
He wants to sell this.
property.
Yeah, he wants to sell the dock.
Right.
Yeah, and he wants to sell the dock, and it's not all really usable dock, and that's really what's spurring this. But it seems to me that if their signs are missing that says you can't tie up boats here, that's that should be enforced. And I think we could have the harbor master write a letter. I can write a letter to the condominium association saying, by the way, we've just noticed, and we're getting ready for the spring and reviewing the harbor, that your signs are missing and they're required for your permit to use that dock at all, really.
Has anybody confirmed that the signs are missing?
I got from across the river. I couldn't see them from Vets Park. I went looking for one day.
well, this is being.
Have you looked, Jeff?
I have not.
I'll
I
go down there
past
tomorrow.
there all the time.
I will go down there tomorrow and take a look.
Oh, thanks a lot, Bruce. But again, this is being instigated by Mr. Bajek. He's come up several times, had emailed me about this, and that
I think that we just ought to kind of start where we see something that's amiss, that is there's supposed to be signs and there aren't signs, that we should point it out. I mean, even if we're not the regulating authority or don't,
we should have to.
Somebody's going to point that out.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to write a letter, or Bruce and I can do something together. But if Bruce, you check it out, there's supposed to be, I think, 3 signs on that Vantage Point dock that say temporary tie up and only.
All right, I'll check it out tomorrow.
Hey, thanks, Bruce. Just let me know and we'll decide what to do. Thanks for bringing it up, John. I think it's a good.
Could I just ask one question? Does that also involve Harbor Lights? Because Harbor Lights get some pretty good sized boats that try to tie up to their dock. So they would also be kind of in violation, right?
Well, they're also in violation because they're over the edge,
That's
correct?
correct. Yes,
Yeah.
that's
So
correct.
I think you're gonna do Vantage Point, you gotta send a letter to them too, saying what size boat is allowed to tie up to their dock.
Well, that's a definite area of concern at several locations along there, especially at the end of First Street.
That's right. And of course, the other issue at the end of First Street is they've got that finger sticking really in the right of way of First Street. If you go
Yeah,
that way.
they've encroached by 12 or so.
Look at it.
And that and if we're talking about street ends and kinds of development and waterfront access for the residents of Norwalk, what better spot than to have a little access point there where somebody's put up a corrugated metal fence so you can't get in there and
Well,
and
that's
all.
again, Alan, that's up for not grabs, but that's up for a future permit that Overton is going to put in, and they still retain this little section right here, which is encroaching on the city's right of way in this area right here.
Right, and that should be opposed as well, as far as I'm concerned. I guess, my
Exactly.
opinion.
So these are some of the things that we're going to be faced with, and things that we're going to have to contend with as a commission. And what I'm really concerned about is, again, is if we certainly have the right to review that application, but they're going to start challenging the Harbor Commission's right to review the application based on that court decision. That's happened in all the several other towns around the state already. So I'm very concerned about that. So these are forthcoming, as far as I'm sure they're going to challenge the Vantage Point thing about their dock signage, but as long as the DEP, maybe a letter should come from the DEP as well, Alan, too. I don't know.
Well, what we should, rather than asking the DEP to enforce their thing, I think we ought to try to enforce that restriction and copy it to DEP and say, hey, look, you tell the person their signs are missing and copy it to the DEP who told them they had to have the signs there. So.
And again, keeping in mind that this next application is forthcoming from Overton is still containing that little finger pier right away there. So Chris should take attention at that as well, as far as the street end usage in this area right here. So
I mentioned something, Jim.
that's a concern. Oh, I'm sorry.
One other thing, and I'll stop, but if you notice on the survey drawing, the Veterans Park Marina is within the anchorage. And that's permitted. And that was with the understanding when we realigned the project boundaries that the city marina could stay within the anchorage, provided that it's open to all on equal terms. And that means that the spaces are available to residents as well as non-residents, and the fee would be the same. So that's an example of an encroachment into the anchorage, but it was allowed to be there.
Right. That's roughly the only exception.
It is allowed to be there.
Right, it is allowed to be there, right? All right, well, if there's nothing else, again, I just wanted to forewarn the commission as far as future proposals that'll be coming for us. So, anyway, that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Dr. Pinto. Appreciate it. Is there any correspondence, Amelia? I don't have any.
I do not have any correspondence either.
Well, that we can move right along into the election of officers then. Nominating committee excuse me?
No, I was gonna say, I'm sorry, you're right. I'm sorry. I mean,
our last meeting, we accepted the recommendation of the nominating committee for the 3 officers whom we elect, the commission chair, the vice chair, and the secretary. And the recommendation was for myself to continue as chair, Jeff Mangles as vice chair, and Lori as secretary. The question now is, are there any nominations from the floor at this point?
right. The way we've run this in the past is that the nominating chair, or myself, I'll take, is to announce the positions and the names and ask from the floor 3 times whether there's any additional comment, any additional names that move forward. So again, with that, we have as chair, we have Mr. Alan Kibbe. We have as vice chair, Mr. Jeff Mangles, and as secretary, recording secretary, Ms. Lori Jones. And do I hear any nominations from the floor? And again, we have as chair, Mr. Kibbe, vice chair, Mr. Mangles, and recording secretary, Ms. Jones. Any nominations from the floor? One more time. Chair, Mr. Kibbe, vice chair, Mr. Mangles, and Ms. Jones, recording secretary. Do we have any further nominations from the floor? All right, not hearing any. I'd like to call for a vote of that moving forward with that. All those in favor of the nomination committee's nominations, please, aye.
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 Any opposed? And any abstentions? Thank you very much and welcome aboard, gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you. Does anybody need to take a break for about 2 minutes, 5 minutes?
I nominate 2 minutes.
Henry? I'm just gonna call a brief break and I'll be back in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Sounds like a plan. That was all application review for people that want to build docks. That was only the RV. No. Alan's tried several times.
Amelia, are you sharing your screen with our?
Yes, sorry
Question?
about that. I'm a couple seconds back late for my break. Yes, I was doing that in case anyone joined as an attendee and was wondering what was going on.
All right. Back in session again. Couple of remarks I have. It talks about committee appointments on the agenda. I don't have a lot to say about that. I sent everyone a note. I hope you got about anyone interested in changing committee assignments or having a special interest in that. I had no responses to that actually. So I want to be sure everybody got that. Could we got my note saying yeah, okay. I have a couple of thoughts about that. I'm not going to express them here. I'll call you individually about people I can shuffle around a little bit. We have some vacancies. We need to have somebody on the mayor's water quality committee and we're not, don't have a representative there. So if you're interested in doing that, sitting on the mayor's water quality committee as well as the harbor commission, let me know if anybody would like to step up and do that. Otherwise I may start asking people to do that. We also have a vacant seat on our commission. We're have a couple of candidates. Jeff Nagelkirk is one person who's expressed some interest, and I've reached out to him once and said, put in an application if you're interested. But I don't know if you have any friends who might be interested in joining the commission as well, that we should ask, try to take this up ourselves and find candidates to send to the mayor who makes the appointments. But we could, if we've got people we know of that would be a good addition, we should reach out and try to get them on board. The other one large item is the harbor management plan. It's been about 15 years since it was last reviewed and updated. And John and I were talking about this the other day, that we should start to form a committee, both of commissioners and some from other constituencies, from the cities, people who are involved in the waterfront, to look at the harbor management plan and make recommendation for updates and changes. It's important that the plans stay relevant and up to date with the state of the state of the union, if you will. In New England, there's a lot of towns that have rules still in the books about you can't graze cattle on the green on Sunday and things like that, and we don't want to be in that situation. We want to be, so somebody reading our plan sees something that's really relevant today and doesn't have little obsolete things clicking around in it. And I'm sure several of us have ideas about other things we'd like to see in the plan that aren't there to make it more contemporary. It's not like rewriting it, but it's just making it state of the art for this time in life. So please let me know if you're interested in being involved with that. I don't think and I don't think it has to. We're not talking about rewriting the whole thing. We're talking about going through it and finding things that could be said better or aren't so appropriate in this day and age anymore. That's really the job, and it's important that be done every 10 or 15 years or more often as necessary, just to be current and to show that we're still alive and kicking. So please let me know if you'd like to sit on that. Just shoot me an email, and I'll try to put together a group to start on that. And if you think of anybody else in the city who we should ask to be a part of that, we should. Certainly the Shellfish Commission should be involved in that, but anyone else we can bring aboard.
Well,
and
that's
not to take make this a labor of a lifetime. It's just editing project is what I envision.
But I think it's smart now. I agree with you.
Finally, I'm one of my goals this year is to try to, and I'm going to work with Amelia on this, is to make a better effort to keep all the Norwalk Harbor Management Commission records and files in City Hall with our staff person who is there to help. I certainly don't mind if commissioners have their own copies of things and keep their own things that they refer to often, but I think that anything we do that has any regulatory influence or whatever needs to be has to be in City Hall records. Because I don't really personally think that we should all be keeping everything personally and it just belongs in the city as well. They could be PDFs. They don't have to be certainly don't have to be editable documents at all, so that they don't get changed. But if, I just think it's important. So if one of us has a question about something, particularly some of these older permits, it should be really easy for us to call them up and find them and read them and make a recommendation or make a do some enforcement, things like that.
Yeah, no, Alan, I just wanted to add just
So
one.
that's my 2 cents. I don't know if you have any response to those things, but that's just what's on my mind.
Alan, I just wanted to add, make sure that we have as part of the members of that.
Don, are you muted?
No, can you hear me?
I see your mouth moving, but I don't hear
He
anything.
doesn't have his ears
Alan,
in.
your ear, yeah.
Can you hear me? You can hear.
There you go.
You can hear.
There you go.
All right.
There
There you go. Hey, welcome back.
He's been ignoring us.
Welcome
the
back,
past
Alan.
10 minutes.
Well, yeah, I'm glad I finally put them on for the meeting. You know, I was been
What I
quiet
wanted-
hours here.
What I wanted to add is make sure
That's
that
really funny.
members of that subcommittee, Alan, incorporates our harbor master, like I said, and Mr. Silver, who is the original author of our harbor management plan, as well as harbor management plans from around the state, and then certainly member of our Shellfish Commission, as you pointed out. I think important.
Right.
that
And
they then, but
I'm
Chris-
gonna put my hat in the ring for the subcommittee and also say that I think we need to have a budget to update the graphics. Because there's a lot of maps, a lot of good information, but you know, it's been photocopied 17 times and looked like it was done in the 30s. So or at least the 70s. 30s it would be better handwriting. But yeah, and maybe even if we work with the city's GIS, you know, the city has quite a good GIS system, and you know, if there's you know, there's people that do that as part of the city, and I don't know if Amelia has any information for us on that. I don't know who, if somebody could be made available to us, because you know, if the base map's all there, it's coming, you know, it's plotting out the docks, it's plotting out the mooring fields, it's plotting out all the information that's in there in an older fashion and getting it up to date and maybe even making it on the forward on the public facing part of the GIS as well. So you know, I'm not a copy editor, but I know how to do maps and plans, so I think I'd like to take on that part.
I mean, it may be a series of tasks that we develop that we tackle and we prioritize them as to which most important and what we do first. But you're right, a lot of the graphics need attention. There's one section of the plan too. If anybody's online that knows it, it's all got their Word document edits. They're all a lot of strike throughs and things like that in one. An alternate language in one, and it's really embarrassing because that's the only source of a harbor plan that I know of. And you send that to somebody and they get a in-process edited version. So it's things like that need to be cleaned up as well. It's just kind of technical, but it's got to be done. So let me know if you're interested, and I'll try to put a group together to do that. I think it's important.
I'll just comment on the version that's online that has the strikeouts. That was meant to show that the changes from the original plan. And Tony Mobilia, when he passed away, and I had redone that and taken out the strikeouts and prepared a clean copy. It never made it back onto the website, plus with more up-to-date GIS maps. But what was printed on the website was intended to show that the changes between that were then adopted and the changes to the original plan. But we can.
That's just a clerical typist job to fix that now, I guess.
But we did it. Tony Mobilia did it when he was passed away. So we have all that. Doesn't need.
It just needs to go to the city to tell them to put it on the website.
Needs to be what Tony was working on. It just needs to be looked at and made sure that there's no spelling mistakes, and then we can put it on the website. But it was all redone and Tony passed away when we did it.
So we have that. So that'll simplify a lot.
You have that. Somebody has it.
Right.
We have it all.
Have it all, Jeff.
And the other thing I might say, I'm sorry to interrupt here, but the policies of the plan, in my opinion, are still valid. And those are in most all cases. It's area-specific recommendations that could be updated. But the biggest issue affecting the update of the plan has to do with the authority of the Harbor Management Commission. And that's affecting all of the towns now that are working to update their plans. Because we spent a lot of time tonight looking at those applications before deep. A lot of thought went into it, time of the commission. But as it stands now, there's no legal authority for the commission to do what we did tonight. So if that's what affects most all of the harbor management plans. So updating to talk about more specific projects, it essentially that court decision invalidated the implementation section of this plan and every other plan. And that's what we've been working so hard for over the last year to try to correct. But that it deserves more talk than we can devote to it tonight.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to make ourselves useful and just like this thing with Vantage Point condominium and just to stay on top of these things and
Well, we'll have to, as I said, there's another shoe that's going to drop on that one, Alan, so we're waiting to see. And then on the same note, as far as you're talking about archiving, I think I contacted Mr. Mangles about Pat Santella, Dennis's wife, had contacted me, and I contacted Jeff about records that he has with regard to the mooring. So I guess Jeff will be in contact with her to see if he can capture some of that information that he had in his files.
Correct.
Yeah. But we should get that all in one place, at least where we can be,
That's right. Yeah.
particularly the things that are really records of the commissions. So we can refer to them ourselves as
Right.
our personnel change and the composition of the commission changes.
Well, she has all the information, and she's just waiting for us to retrieve that.
Okay, great. Staff reports. Harbor Master Lavallo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Real quick. Mooring purchases for the year have kicked off. We're at 129 moorings. 62 have paid up to today's date. So we got like another 67 they're starting to pick up now every day. People are paying. And I know you're still getting emails, and thank you for forwarding them to me about inspections and stuff. Online mooring automatically sends out notices to the mooring holders that their moorings need to be updated. That's why you're getting those emails. Other than that, it's pretty much all I got. I know I received a couple complaints from the Buchanan 5, the tugboat. They were concerned that the work by the railroad bridge, their buoys sometimes loosen up and come into the federal channel. So I'm constantly going down, and the 2 deputy harbor masters are on top of it, make sure that the buoys are tied up and not floating in the channel. And we're working I got a real good communication with the project manager for Giambro. Other than that, that's my report.
Thank you, Bruce. Any questions? I have one. Have you heard anything more about the moorings for the barges that are going to be stationed in the harbor, in the inner harbor? Yet, is there any talk about that?
Talking about the staging of the barges in there?
Yeah.
There's only one that's out there now. Is a smaller work barge that they have tied up.
I was talking more about the outer harbor, on the out next to on the way to the power plant from the bridge along the side of the channel there on the east side. They haven't done anything there yet, right?
Over by Marvin Beach.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one small barge tied up to a mooring out there.
That's it though.
The balls went in last fall.
Yeah, the balls. Yeah, there's only one barge, one small little work barge that's out there now. I do know they're working on putting the moorings are going to be dropped over by the lighthouse. I actually put a call into Chiambro today just to follow up on that, and I didn't get a call back. But I know they talked to me a few weeks ago that they were looking into dropping the moorings out there by Grange Ledge Lake.
And how many are those, Bruce? Just for I forget off topic. I
Out
know
by
there's like
Grange
8 or
Ledge?
9. Yeah.
I believe there's going to be 3 moorings.
3.
Okay. Because I see that there's like 6 or maybe 8.
Well, there's 8. There's 8 in the harbor.
Correct.
You know, each barge has 2 moorings. But I think they're only going to stage 3 barges out by Green's Ledge.
That's right.
They're going to be at a swing.
And they'll swing.
Right.
And also, there's supposed to be perimeter lighting for that whole area too. For I think for all of those barge locations. So we have to keep our eye on that as things start to happen.
Well,
because remember what happened.
Well, that's in our permit. You know that.
That's right. That's right. That's why we lost a few people over at the Tappan Zee Bridge site, because they had some unlit barges sitting in the Hudson River that people ran into. It's not a.
And I think the ones that are inside the harbor are going to be a concern, but the ones out by Green's Ledge are also going to be a bigger concern, because people don't expect to see anything out
there.
And you're not doing
like everything else. It's got to be policed, and with we have a very good marine unit, and the guys from the marine unit are on top of it, and we're lucky that one of our deputy harbor masters is on the marine unit, and we also have someone on the fireboat that's our deputy harbor master. So we're all pretty much geared up to see what's out there,
And Bruce, if can I ask one more question regarding the station and vessels? Is any word in the perhaps ETA of the actually displacement right now of the Maritime Center and the South Norfolk, the Seaport Association boating? Is that interfering right now with any of the work that's going on right now? I know they have their boats still moored there.
Yeah, the barges, they whatever side of the channel they're working on, they close the east side, and you know what I mean. They're switching back and forth. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, no, but I was just wondering. They're planning on. Well, actually, when the dock gets built, they're going to be moving those vessels up on the other side of the bridge. Is that correct?
Correct.
You don't know when that's going to happen. Prior to the time, or no?
I do not. I'm attending. I'm sure Alan's going to get notification, but March 6th is the next meeting down at on North Water that we'll attend.
Oh, good. All right.
So we'll.
That's a good question to ask. Actually,
we'll follow up. We'll follow up at that meeting.
Because we're getting back in the Maritime Center being active with those a lot more boat trips and things like that, and also Sheffield Island boat as well going out.
Yeah, as far as I know, the Seaport boat is still not operational, as far as I know.
And
Thank you,
Alan,
Bruce.
just as a aside from what Harbor Master Lavala was just mentioning, I'll forward over an update on the Walk Bridge project according to the city, based on a PDF that they sent out over the last 2 weeks, just to see if that aligns with what we're also being told, because it's based on the bridge repairs for Osborne and East Avenue and Strawberry Hill and things like that. It just kind of has a lot of similarities to what we're also looking at. And one of the things that I brought up during that discussion was, the concern about the power line, the Eversource issue coming from Water Street across the harbor into either Vets Park or somewhere near Smith Street, or wherever they end up having this, location where it's going to come out. That's my big concern, because I think if it's going to be right there by the Straffolino Bridge, and what they were talking about with a 4 to 8 to 12 week shutdown of a lane, it could be a major upsetment to East Norwalk, South Norwalk traffic. So that was just something I was concerned about.
That is part of the project. Obviously, it's getting that power line done, but it's separate from it's a separate contract from the bridge So, and they're at the point now where they kind of need to get the wires off the bridge as they're and be moving toward getting them under the river.
Everyone seems to be very focused on getting it done, but no one seems to be focused on telling us where it's gonna actually result.
Now, the last time I saw it, it was going along the edge of the park and then underwater by the ramps and then right out and into that vacant lot that's just south of the where they knocked down the, or it's just where they knocked down the IMAX theater, but I haven't seen anything since then.
No, myself as well, and I guess the big concern is just
Yeah,
getting clarity on that.
Yeah, I was down there a couple of days ago, and there's still driving the pilings over there by where the Maritime IMAX theater was.
Okay, Jeff Stedman, you're up.
All right, thank you. I do have a few things to say, if you bear with me. The first thing has to do with the Connecticut Port Authority and the small harbor grants. As you know, there was not a grant program last year. And we were hoping that this is a potential source of funds for the Veterans Park Marina construction. So I met with Mr. Hammond, who's the executive director, acting executive director of the Port Authority, who I believe is a good person to work with. He's the interim director. And as you know, the Port Authority is almost, the State Pier project is almost completed, which was their major focus. So I met with him in Old Saybrook and talked about the projects that have been funded in different towns in the past with this the Small Harbor Improvement Project Program grant. He said there was no grant program last year because they didn't have the staff to administer it. And that was Mr. Salvatore, who we argued should hopefully that they could keep on. However, he did agree to pursue another round of grants. And so at the Port Authority meeting, was it last week, John, or the week before, which we
Last week, yeah.
we attended by Zoom, the Port Authority voted to announce a new round of SHIP grants, which the announcement will be in March. And they have up to $5 million that they were authorized to allocate this year. So that's a potential source of funds for the Veterans Park Marina. The estimated cost of the marina replacement now, according to Mr. Stanton, is $3 million. Now, all of that should not be expected to be provided through the Port Authority because that would leave little money for the other towns. But I think it's a source of funds, and according to the executive director, that the next round will be announced in March. If Parks and Rec wants us to help, we can, because we prepared the grant application that got $1 million for the visitors dock several years ago. So we can certainly help with that. So that's one positive thing. Well, another maybe less than positive is, you know, the governor proposed a few weeks ago that the Port Authority be folded into the Airport Authority. And we're going to have to pay attention to that if that somehow results in the loss of this. But that's a long story. But the main thing is that this grant program is going to go forward this year. And I didn't talk with Mike Matthews before we talked about the Oyster Trail, Mike. I didn't need to take what you're going to say, but we put together for the purpose of preparing graphics to illustrate points of interest, put together a navigation chart matched with an aerial photo matched with the 1895 shellfish bed. So I'll share that with you, Mike. I think we can use that for displaying information. That's another thing. Matt mentioned the Eversource project. Apparently that the DEP, is reviewing the DEP application for this because it's got approval from the Siting Council. And from what I understand, the DEP is getting close to issuing its notice of tentative determination to approve the project. That hasn't been announced yet, but that process allows for a public hearing to be held upon receipt of 25 signatures. And as you know, this commission argued for a public hearing before the Siting Council, and for reasons that I think were ridiculous, the Siting Council didn't agree to do that. But that's an opportunity for all the people in East Norwalk to ask questions and for us to understand the impact on the park. And so that probably will be issued based on what I've talked about with Deep before our next commission meeting. So that will be a topic of discussion, but there is a provision for public hearing on that. Another item is the Norwalk River watershed. Maybe some of you are familiar with the watershed-based plan. which was established years ago, in large part at the recommendation of the Harbor Commission and because of the presence of the valuable shellfish beds in the harbor. We had a big role in the development of that. So at the Watershed Initiative meeting a couple of weeks ago, they announced that through Sea Grant, they're going to be able to provide funds to hire a consultant to update the watershed-based plan. They haven't hired the consultant yet, but that's something that we should be involved with. We also talked about through that watershed-based plan to address this issue of what does resiliency mean? and you know, we've talked about that in the Watershed Initiative meetings. So that's going to be forthcoming. Another interesting discussion we had, and this was in Fairfield, with people from the U.S. Geological Survey. They have instruments that they're using, that they've used in the last few years to collect water quality samples and analyze for nutrients. And they mentioned that there are two monitors in Norwalk, one at Cove Marina and the other at the Maritime Aquarium. And they're either finished with the measurements there or about to be finished. And then they're going to, they hope to present a final report of what all this information means. But they don't have the money. They hope to get the money from DEEP to make this report sort of user-friendly and have an educational value instead of just presenting data. So that's something I think that we would support, the presentation of that data. And then I already mentioned the issue with the Harbor Management Act and the concern about the authority of harbor management commissions and the work we're trying to do to influence a change in the legislation. And that, again, I won't go over, over all the things that we're trying to work on, but we haven't been able to get a response from DEEP, which agreed last month in a meeting with the mayor of New London that they would meet with us to discuss it. And they've not responded to any comments since then. And since the last meeting, there was also and Steve can talk about this, a statewide meeting of shellfish commissions in New Haven that I was able to go to. And they gave me an opportunity to talk about this issue with Harbor Management Authority because it affects shellfish commissions too, because Harbor Commission recommendations can serve to support and implement recommendations of the shellfish commissions. And so if you invalidate the recommendations from the Harbor Commission, it affects the shellfish commissions. And there was general support about that. I think that's, but if you bear with me, I have one more thing to say, and then you can tell me to be quiet. And I know there was a tragic accident recently with the loss of life, but I want to mention another matter from our harbor management community. So last night, a very good friend of mine passed away. He was a harbor master in Southport. He was also an original member of the Fairfield Harbor Management Commission. And he was 100 years old. And he was an Army veteran of World War II. And he was retired from the police department after almost 30 years. And actually, he was the oldest living FBI agent. And he was a wonderful man. And what I've learned from him over 30 years is the way he served on I think no one contributed, I can imagine, more to the country and the state of Connecticut and the town of municipality than he did. And he was motivated not by any political agendas or personal agendas. He wasn't trying to get a better job. He wasn't trying to call attention to himself. He was trying to do a good job. And I think he was an example, and he's recognized, in Washington, D.C. and Hartford for the accomplishments he had. He was a wonderful example. His name is Pat Carroll. So I just wanted to mention that. It meant a lot to me and to many other people, but he was an example of how to do this work. And he was no one had greater integrity than Captain Carroll, or more devotion to duty and public service. And I just wanted to say that in a public forum tonight, that he was part of our harbor management community. So thank you for letting me talk for however long I talked for.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff.
That's my
Was Mr. Carroll a Norwalk resident?
No, it's a town of Fairfield. Yeah.
Town of Fairfield.
My condolences, Jeff.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, whoever
Might as
that
well.
was,
Yes.
actually, good man. Yeah.
Yeah, he told me once his second job out of high school was in the Army in World War II.
Wow.
My job was, I worked on a golf course.
Yes.
Thank you.
Southport Harbor is a great loss, I'll tell you, with him gone. Yeah.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right.
Chairman Bartosh.
Thank you, Chairman Kibbe, and my personal condolences, Jeff, there about Captain Carroll. I've appreciated learning about him through you over these last years. So Godspeed to him, his friends and family. But I have no report, Mr. Chairman, as we had no meeting in February. February is usually a slow month, and we had nothing on the agenda, so we just decided to cancel. But permits are for sale at Fisherman's World, so get them while they're hot. And maybe while the water is still cold, and I will yield back. Eat Narwhal shellfish.
Thank you, Chairman Bartosh. Moving on to committee reports, Mr. Mangles.
Okay, so don't have too much, but as the harbor master stated, we're getting we have about half of the moorings paid for already. There was some confusion. We got a lot of emails and calls about registration being expired, but it was really the inspection that was expired. The wrong template was linked to that. That was through online mooring. Brought that to their attention and asked them to also send notification out to the mooring inspector on record if a mooring does become in need of inspection or if it's expired, and they have done that. The mooring fields, so thanks to Amelia for sending out the letters. Sprite Island has paid for the first installment, the 50% of their of the previous year's fees. Norwalk and Rowayton Yacht Clubs have signed for the certified letter, which was delivered, which tells the fee is for this year. Dakwa, we will be adding some additional moorings in the inner harbor, I call it. There are some ordinance changes that are coming up as we took a vote last meeting to increase that from $40 to $45 to stay in line with the current rates around us. So thanks again to Amelia. She is heading all of that. We're going to reference a price sheet, basically, or a fee list. Those fees are not going to be in the ordinance anymore. Near Map, which is similar to Google Earth, as I stated last meeting. So once we get an updated image, it passes by 2 or 3 times a year. We'll go ahead and with Bruce's, the harbor master's help, we'll be working on that, and we'll label the moorings, make it nice and easy. The Vets Park dock project. So I did receive a response from the civil engineer with the city regarding Vets Park and the questions that I've asked. They mentioned that the latest revision shows that the southernmost slip, the end of that dock, is allocated for temporary tie-up. They do have electrical and water hookups, and I did ask for that latest draft, and I also asked if it would be appropriate to go down to Vets Park so that we can walk the docks, and I have not received a response yet from them, but I expect to. Other than that, that's it. That's all I have.
Do we have an indication that they're going to go ahead with that work this spring, or is it not scheduled as yet?
They have not told me anything, and I highly doubt that that is going to do anything this spring. It's already boating season.
Very good. Thank you, Jeff. Any questions for Jeff? Thank you. Mr. McDonald, the money's financial situation.
I wasn't able to do an update because Mariana is on vacation this week. So when I pinged her, I just got a out of the office message from her. So I don't have any updates on that. Jeff, did you receive your payment that we authorized?
No,
No, okay. We did authorize that, and I sent that on to Mariana. So let me try to follow up on that when I hear from them. Yeah, so nothing else, and there's not a lot coming and going. There was a small thing from DocLaw, Jeff, that I know Jeff was aware of and clarified and all. So we'll have a better view next month.
Chris, you're gonna segue right into plans and recommendations?
Yeah, also all quiet on the plans and recommendation front. I haven't heard anything. You're on the selection committee for the harbor, I forget the proper name for it. Jessica's project. Has the selection committee done anything for that consultant
No.
selection?
And there were two responses to the RFP, and I'm remiss. I got to call up and say why we met with the two responders a month ago or more, and I haven't heard what the decision-making process is going to be. It was either going to be solicit more respondents or pick between the two we had, because two was not a terrific sample for awarding a contract. I will follow up with that tomorrow.
All right.
Sorry. You all set? Is that
Yeah,
the,
that's it. Yeah, thank you. That's it.
thank you, Chris. The news on our website, Mr. Matthews and Chris, Mr. White is on the road tonight.
Mr. White is on the road, and all the credit goes to him, Chairman. We finally have a beautiful product. So good 3-page newsletter. He really worked his magic on it. It says spring 2024. It will be delivered to the public here coming up. So
We need to have it delivered to the commission for review as soon as we can in draft form, just so everybody can have a look at that.
yeah, that's going to be the first plan. I need to get with Chris on a couple things. Unfortunately, he and I have been alternating business trips during these commission meetings. So you either get him or you get me. Unfortunately for you all, you get me this time. And again, he has been fantastic. Totally revamped all my kind of backwards layout and ideas. And now you've got a professional on it. So great momentum with that. We will send it out to everybody probably early next week at the latest to get a final sign off. I don't foresee any issues, but it will be good to go here. We're well in time for spring.
And anything on the Oyster Trail?
Yeah, thanks. As Jeff's kind of said it better, we've been still working with the myriad kind of stakeholders. It's amazing how many folks have been working on different oyster initiatives, as Chairman Bartush knows all too well, and our colleague commission knows all too well, including I guess it is the core. There is a group called CORR. It is the Collective Oyster Recycling and Restoration Initiative. And they're having an event next Thursday. If anybody's around and wants to eat some great oysters, there's at the Two Roads Brewing over in Stratford, Connecticut. And I have reached out to the group there to say, hey, very much moving forward with setting up this Norwalk Oyster Trail. Wanted to be the first one in Connecticut. So again, not hearing any no's from anybody, Jeff Stedman, just getting support. I'd love to get your map here very soon and kind of overlay it with mine, connecting all the different oyster points of interest, then we will move forward on that. And that's it.
Questions for Mike?
Mike, is that open to the public? I mean, this core, you can go and attend, and how does that work? You have to.
Hey?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll send it. I'll email the group. It's a Connecticut-based group that is focused on restoration and recycling of oyster shells, and that's exactly kind of what we're trying to do, along with the the commission, the Shellfish Commission. So yes, it is open. It is a $40 kind of donation to their efforts, which I think is more than fair, considering that you get one of my favorite breweries, some great Connecticut oysters, and as Steve says, eat Connecticut shellfish, eat Norwalk shellfish, excuse me.
Didn't we have a presentation, if you recall, a while back, a young lady that was in the process of refurbishing?
She's not involved anymore, but Mike, the group that you talked about did give a presentation at the statewide meeting of shellfish commissions that I mentioned that Steve and I and Pete Johnson went to.
Yeah.
So yes, they talked about their goals, and it's certainly an admirable. That was February 3rd, but be interesting to see to what extent they can develop this.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Looking forward to that. Yeah.
Now, water quality, we don't have a representative there, so I don't know that there's a report from there. Lori, do you have anything you'd like to report on? You're all set?
Nope.
Any new business that anyone has? Wow. Hearing none, we can move to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gifford.
Seconded.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very, very, very much.
Good night.
Your
Yeah.
time
Thank you,
and
Alan.
your dedication. Thank you.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Mike,
Good
you're
night.
gonna be sending around that brochure about that for that core.
Yeah, John, I'll send it to you and everyone else, and hope
Okay,
to see
great.
you there.
Yeah.
I'll get you a beer if that's your thing.
We can carpool maybe.
What date is that again, Mike?
So it's next Thursday at 7.
Oh. Okay, yeah. You're talking 7 p.m.
Yes, sir.
It's a good brewery tour.
March
as well.
March 7th, right?
Yes, it is. That's right.
March 7th?
Yes.
March. Oh, great. Okay, I'm not lecturing that night. Okay, great. I'm off that night. Oh, great. Looking
Now
forward.
it's interesting too that they, if you recall, the Norwalk Compressor Company that used to be on Water Street before a lot of the new compartments went in, they're right next to the Two Roads Brewing Company in that industrial complex now. Funny.
Oh.
So.
It's at 7
Okay.
p.m.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
All right.
Good night,
cheers,
all.
gentlemen.
Thank you,
Thanks.
guys.
Thank you very much for a nice meeting.